The Blast from Our Past Network.
Lock your doors, close your windows, turn out your lights, for chills and thrills await you. It's time for Podcasting After Dark with your hosts, Corey Stevenson and Zach Schaefer. Stay with a friend, say your prayers as grisly ghouls close in to seal your doom, and enjoy this bonus episode of Podcasting After Dark.
Hey everybody, co-host Corey here, and guess what? I have a surprise for you. One last mini review of something from the Silent Night, Deadly Night franchise. And this time it is the comic book that came out in 2024. It's written by James Kuhoric, S.A. Czech, and the artist is Puis Calzada, and published by American Mythology. So I backed this hardback trade paperback on Kickstarter for two reasons. One, it's a Silent Night, Deadly Night thing. It's a sequel to the first movie. And two, James Kuhoric is a friend of mine. I used to work at Diamond Comic Distributors first as a customer service rep, and then I worked there as a brand manager, kind of briefly. Wasn't really a job that was made for me. And it's one of those things where I got promoted because I was good at being a customer service rep. I wasn't the best at being a brand manager. In fact, at the time, I was so young, I didn't really even know what a brand manager really even did. So yeah, didn't last very long, but Jim was good to me. Loved hanging out with him. He's a great dude. Awesome guy. I don't get to talk to him too much these days, but I still consider him a friend. When I worked for him, he was also writing a lot of the Ash versus comics. So if you read Ash versus Jason versus Freddy, it was written by him. He was writing, I think he was also writing, it was all like the Army of Darkness stuff. He wasn't writing anything that was Evil Dead because of the whole rights things that are all, crazy between Army of Darkness and Evil Dead. But if it was something that was Army of Darkness related, I think it was for Boom Studios at the time. I could be wrong about that. It's been almost 20 years. But he would write a lot of the Ash comics, and I was reading them and everything. Even before I got to know him, I was reading them. So when I saw on his Facebook that he was writing a Silent Night, Deadly Night comic series, I was like, well, hell yeah. I didn't pick up the individual issues, but I did back the hardcover trade paperback, I did back the hardcover collected edition on Kickstarter, and I read it when I was at my mom's house, because I brought it home with me. I was like, okay, sure, why not for the holidays? And I figured, oh, hell, I mean, I recovered every other Silent Night, Deadly Night thing, post number 2. Might as well cover this as well. So, first off, I gotta say, it's a sequel to part 1. It negates part 2 and everything after that. It basically, and I don't want to give too many things away because it is a fun read and I would like for you guys to check this out. But basically, it picks up, Billy actually didn't die. And, at the end of part 1, Billy doesn't die. And he's kind of like in a nursing home. Like he's older now. This is like, I think 20, 30 years later. It follows a character named Parker who was at the orphanage when everything went down. So basically, the comic takes characters that were in the background and brings them forward. It does play with Ricky. It does play with this Parker character, who's never named in the movie. Jim just takes, characters that are sort of in the background and brings them, gives them a little bit of something to do. What if, these kids grew up and everything. So Parker comes back to town after writing a successful horror novel called Silent Night, Deadly Night, and the cover's the same as the movie and everything. And he's kind of like a Stephen King style character. And, he's coming back into town to sort of, squash the ghosts of his past because he's never been back type of thing. Almost kind of a Salem's Lot sort of setup, if you will. And, he runs into some other characters that were also kids at the orphanage. One of these characters owns the Iris Toys. Like he basically owns it. Like bought the building. They talk about how it turned into like an adult video store after Ira's death. He bought the building, turned it back into Iris Toys, and now is a successful toy store owner and everything. A girl that Parker was at the orphanage with. She's now a police officer in town and everything. And there is another Santa Claus killer happening right now, and like currently happening, and they're saying punish and all this kind of stuff and everything. And at the same time, Ricky, Billy's younger brother, Ricky, comes back into town, and he has a family now. He's got a wife and a daughter, and he's kind of trying to reconcile things with Billy. But he has a lot of, mental issues and PTSD about everything. And it's almost like a alternate timeline of what would happen to Ricky if he sort of got his life together. But there are some of the problems of the movie part 2 that happened to Ricky here, where he kind of starts, having a hard time coping with things and is starting to spiral a bit. Again, I don't want to give too much away because this is newer and I would like people to read it. It's a lot of fun. There is a strong supernatural element in this comic. I will say that. I will sort of give that away spoilery because it happens sort of at the beginning. It happens early on, but Billy kind of comes back, but he kind of doesn't want to, so he kills himself. And that allows a demon to kind of enter his body, and he becomes a very monstrous killer Santa Claus. But as I said, there's another like copycat killer happening at the same time. So it all, of course, comes to a head. There's other supernatural elements in it. There's a kid at the orphanage that's getting bullied. There's supernatural elements, like he sort of gets possessed as well. So there's this sort of race to save him and everything. And there's, like I said, there's a fun convergence of all the stuff that's kind of happening. But of course, it's a comic book, so you're here for the artwork and everything like that. And Puis does a great job of really having some fun with the violence. It doesn't hold back. It's a pretty gory comic book. People getting chopped up and everything like that. It's a lot of fun. The artwork is really good. I very much enjoy his style, and I think it works very well here. It's the one of the things that I do love. Obviously, I've talked about in the Silent Night, Deadly Night franchise is when there's snow. It takes place in Utah, and there's snow, so the artist makes it snowy, which is hell. That's at this point I realize that that's the main ingredient that I want from a Christmas horror movie, comic book, TV show. I want snow, and he does it well. He also handles the supernatural aspect in a fun way. Everything's solid. Everything is solid as far as the artwork goes. Jim and the other writer, they do a great job, with the characters. They're different enough. They have their own voices, I could hear in my head. Very, very fun. Like, it's a comic book, so it's going to be a little bit of a different review here. But I did have a really good time with it. So let's count the different timelines that now this franchise has. The first timeline is Silent Night, Deadly Night 1, 2, and 3. Then you have Silent Night, Deadly Nights 3, 4, and 5, and that's a separate timeline. Then you have Silent Night, the 2012 remake, third timeline. Then you have Silent Night, Deadly Night, the remake, that's a fourth timeline. Now you have Silent Night, Deadly Night 1, then this comic book, and that's a fifth timeline. I mean, we're starting to get into like the grounds and the realm of Halloween and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That franchise has an insane amount of different timelines with the remakes and the prequels to the remakes and everything. It's that one's pretty wild. But yeah, if you're a fan of the Silent Night, Deadly Night franchise, and especially if you're in a fan of of all of it, all of it, all encompassing, then this is definitely for you. It's a love letter, not just to the franchise. It's a love letter to sort of the 80s. Even the cover of the hardback, has this look of a VHS tape. And, on the back of it, it's fun. They do little fun things like, instead of just saying 176 pages, they say like runtime, 176 pages, So There's another standalone story in this collected edition that's fun as well. But the main stuff is, this is a sequel to Silent Night, Deadly Night, the first one. Billy, he gets possessed and he kind of goes on a killing spree. There's another killer and it all comes to a head, a very, very violent, head. And yeah, if you like violence, comic book violence, obviously, if you like comic book violence, go ahead and check this out. I'm sure you can probably pick it up somewhere on Amazon or whatever. Like I said, I backed the Kickstarter, so I'm not sure where to get it now, but I'm fairly certain I'm sure they have a trade or something on Amazon. Let me check that out real quick. It looks like people are selling them, the individual issues, on Amazon, but I'm sure you can go to American Mythology, their websites, and I'm sure you can get something there. They're based out of Baltimore, so that's awesome. Specifically Bel Air, which I know where that is. I used to live in Bel Air. And guys and gals, check out the Silent Night, Deadly Night comic book written by my pal James Kuhoric. And it's a good read. It's a lot of fun, and it's gory. I think that's really kind of all that matters, right? So anyways, hope you enjoyed this final conclusion to the Silent Night, Deadly Night mini review run that I've been on this holiday season. I know this is a little bit late, a little bit past Christmas, but the OCD in me really wanted to complete this whole series. So yeah, check it out. And as always, ho ho ho, we'll catch you in 2026. Woo!
Be sure to subscribe to Podcasting After Dark on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. You can support the show by joining our Patreon page, picking up a t-shirt from our merch store, or leaving us a 5-star review. Follow us on Instagram at Podcasting After Dark. All links can be found on our website at www.podcastingafterdark.com. And join us next time for another cult movie or TV show review with Corey Stevenson and Zach Schaefer.